The midnight letters. The city was quiet at midnight, its streets bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. Lila sat by the window of her small apartment, her fingers tracing the edges of the letter she had received earlier that day. The envelope was worn, the ink slightly smudged, but she recognized the handwriting immediately. It was the same handwriting she had memorized years ago, letters that had once filled her heart with hope, love, and longing. It was from Nathan. Lila had met Nathan on a summer evening 4 years ago at a quaint little cafe tucked away in the corner of the city. She had been reading a book, lost in its pages, when Nathan walked in. He had an easy smile, a laugh that lit up the room, and a curiosity that drew him to her. They struck up a conversation that day, about books, about life, about the city, and soon, one evening turned into many. Before long, they were inseparable, falling into a rhythm of love that neither of them had expected but both embraced. But Nathan had always been a dreamer. He talked of travel, of exploring new places, of finding adventure beyond the boundaries of their small world. Lila loved his stories and the way his eyes lit up when he spoke of the places he wanted to go. But she also knew that his dreams would one day take him far away, leaving her behind. She was tied to the city, to her family, to her responsibilities, and Nathan's heart was tied to the wind. The day he left was the hardest day of her life. They had promised to write, to keep in touch, but as the months passed, Nathan's letters became fewer, his words more distant. Eventually, the letters stopped altogether, leaving Lila with nothing but memories of the man she had loved so deeply. She tried to move on, tried to bury the ache that lingered in her heart, but every time she saw a letter, every time she walked past the cafe where they had spent countless hours together, the memories came flooding back. And now, after all this time, a letter had arrived. Her heart pounded as she unfolded the paper, her eyes scanning the familiar handwriting. Lila, I know it's been a long time. Too long. There are so many things I should have said, so many things I wish I could take back. Leaving you was the hardest thing I've ever done, but I thought it was the right thing. I thought I needed to chase my dreams, that I needed to find myself out there in the world. But the truth is, every place I went, every adventure I had, I couldn't stop thinking about you. You were always there, in the back of my mind, in my heart. I thought distance would make it easier, that time would make me forget, but it didn't. It only made me realize how much I lost when I walked away from you. I don't expect you to forgive me, and I don't expect anything from you now. I just wanted you to know that I'm back in the city. If you'll let me, I'd like to see you again. I want to explain everything, to tell you how much you still mean to me. If not, I'll understand. Yours always, Nathan. Lila's hands trembled as she finished reading. She had imagined this moment so many times, wondering what she would say or do if Nathan ever came back. But now that it was real, now that he was here again, she didn't know what to feel. Anger? Relief? Fear? She stood up, pacing the room, her thoughts racing. Part of her wanted to tear the letter up, to pretend it never came. He had left her once. Who was to say he wouldn't leave again? But another part of her, the part that still remembered the sound of his laughter and the warmth of his arms around her, wanted to believe that people could change, that maybe, just maybe, they could find their way back to each other. Unable to make a decision, Lila grabbed her coat and headed out into the cool night air. The streets were quiet, the city asleep, but she knew where she needed to go. She walked quickly, her heart pounding with every step, until she reached the cafe where it had all begun. And there he was. Nathan stood by the window, his hands in his pockets, his eyes scanning the street as if looking for something or someone. When he saw her, his face softened, a mix of relief and nervousness flashing across his features. "Lila," he said softly as she approached, his voice barely more than a whisper. For a moment, neither of them spoke. The weight of the years between them hung in the air, the unspoken words, the lost time. But then Nathan took a step closer, his eyes never leaving hers. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "I should have never left. I know I can't change the past, but I'm here now. And if you'll let me, I'll spend the rest of my life making it up to you." Lila's heart ached at his words. She had waited for this moment, had dreamed of it, and now that it was here, she realized that despite everything, she still loved him. She took a deep breath, her eyes searching his. "I'm not sure how to start again, Nathan. But maybe we don't have to. Maybe we just need to pick up where we left off. Nathan smiled, his eyes full of hope. I'd like that, he said, stepping closer. More than anything. And as they stood there, under the soft glow of the streetlights, the city quiet around them, Lila knew that sometimes love wasn't about starting over. It was about finding your way back to the person who had always held your heart, even after all the time and distance in the world.